Well, it's about bloody time. Finals are here. Tell you what, we can piss that bye right off. I had a boring couple of weeks there, Skeet, but footy's back. I mean, seriously, but we are here. This is the best time of the year, finals footy, Skeeto. Nice to see you, mate.
Nice to see you too. I've got my shelter.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, no, I like
You've had
it.
a couple of compliments coming in the door, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's black, so it's slimming for me. And
Is that right?
Absolutely. And you can tell I've actually got some footwear on today, which just see, if you can't see it, Scully, completely like out of Survivor. Maybe out of something. Out of a stranded on an island.
You're in my house.
I know.
I could wear what I like.
Okay, you go, which you are. 1991. Well played.
Oh, Skeeter.
It's a long year. We're getting there, though.
I know. Tell you what. Finals footy is here. Shoulder FootyCast live from BackChat Studios. That was the Southern River Band boys out of Thornley with the intro music. Thank you very much for having that for this year. Now, a little bit to get through before we start. Skeeter, we're going to go through the bottom mark roughie of the week as usual, but a little bit of a caveat because there's no one outside $3. So there's only 4 games. There's no $3 outsider because it's finals. I mean,
of course. The 8 best side, yeah.
No roughies. So I give you above a $2. All right, for the
roughie. I've already got mine.
Oh, do you?
As a roughie?
Okay,
yeah.
well, don't just keep it to yourself, please. And Dice, just a reminder, Dice playing down at Shelter September 22. Get your tickets now at oztick.com.au. Or you can jump on the Shelter website and figure it out there, shelterbrewing.com.au. Let's get into it, shall we, Skate? I reckon.
Let's do it.
Asava Ratugolea requests trade to Port Adelaide. He's out the door of Geelong. What do you reckon about that one?
Yeah, no huge surprise. It's the second time in 2 years he's wanted to leave, so I think Geelong will just try and get the best deal possible.
What's he worth, though?
Oh, mate, you talked about this last time, about the dollars that backmen are getting, and it's going through the... I mean, Ben Mackay, and we're talking 800,000. I mean, if that's where we're at, then...
Geelong are notoriously shrewd at the trade table, so I wouldn't have thought they'll be taking much less than like a second rounder.
Yeah,
perhaps,
possibly.
Which is, I think, pretty outrageous.
It is what it is. I mean, Ratugolea to Port, he's met with them. It's, I think, not a fait accompli, but it's just a question of just, as you say, satisfying Geelong to that degree.
One thing that you do realise, I think, is there's not often many big players that move in trade period. So, like... Yeah, there might be one or two each year.
Jeremy Cameron went a few years ago.
There might be one or two each year.
Okay, you keep going.
But I would say the vast majority of trades are guys that are on the fringe.
Mid-range. No, you're right. There's not too many. I'm just trying to think of. Cameron's the biggest in the last 3 or 4 years I can think of.
Tim Kelly to West Coast, right?
Yeah, Tim.
Tim was going well, but there's very rarely a Chris Judd trade.
No, exactly. I mean, that's because... You know, for instance, we may as well Sean Darcy. Why would you want to...
Correct. Because the team that has him wants him.
Yes.
Right? And there has to be something going seriously one to one out because the club will give you a...
It'd be a go-home factor in some cases.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's probably the biggest one, I'd imagine, as opposed to anything else.
I think that gets used a lot by players that maybe want a couple of little extra zeros on the... I may have rolled that out once in my career. Didn't give me much dough, to be honest, because I was like, yeah, go for it. Go feel like there's a door. You know what Geelong is? 4-hour float flight. See ya. Shane McAdam, again, because he requested a trade to Melbourne. He's an interesting one, though, because he's got 2 years left on his deal, and he's a mature age pickup by Adelaide. He's only played 7 games this year, so he wants to head back to Melbourne. But when I say back to Melbourne, he's a South Australian guy. So he wants opportunity. He doesn't think he's being looked after at the footy club by Matty Nix and co. Interesting one. He can take a massive hang, Shane McAdam.
He can.
I think he'd be good in a very good team.
I think the most talked about trade as such will be the Brodie Grundy situation.
That's probably the one.
Just given his move from Collingwood to Melbourne hasn't worked out, and the chance to win a premiership and where he fits in the scheme of things. Because it's okay to say Max Gawn is your number one man, but you know that's in the short term. I mean, an injury to Max, he retires in 12 months. I'm not saying he will, but yeah, I think you need to have a little bit of foresight,
insurance,
and the Dockers, I think. Apart from the fact Sean Darcy's a very good ruckman, is to have 2 good big men at your disposal. And you can't go wrong with that, I don't think.
Are you okay with Port Adelaide meeting with Brodie Grundy before finals?
It's a little, given the fact they're both in finals, Melbourne's in finals, a little strange, but is it, if you wait until end of September, is that too late in terms of getting your ducks in a row?
Oh, look, that is the only strange part. Like, I've got no problem with clubs meeting with players because... As we're saying, it's more and more becoming complete business.
Absolutely.
Players go everywhere. So, in fact, we probably should just be open to the fact that players are meeting with other teams and they're going to have a chat. And it may not mean that Grundy goes to Port Adelaide. The interesting part I do find is Port Adelaide is preparing for a qualifying final in Brisbane. They had the bye, yes, but I assume they travelled to Melbourne. I saw them coming out of an airport. Like they got door stopped at airplanes.
It may not have just been officials. Maybe a player or two went across.
There's 3 players. There's Rosie, Butters, and Boak, maybe. Wines, maybe.
Yeah, look, mate, when you look again, if you look at other football codes, NRL players declare 12 months out that they're going from the Brisbane Broncos to South Sydney. So that's, for me, it's great for the footy media because that's new to us. That how dare you take your eye off the prize for 2 minutes? No, I've got no issue with it at all.
Daniel Rich announces his retirement after the final series. He's been a great player. Is he
super player?
Nick Nananui's draft.
Absolutely. NAB Rising Star winner. One of the best left legs.
Yes.
Left foot kicks, I think, certainly been the top dozen in the last 20 years. I think he's, there's been some rippers, obviously. Buddy's been elite. Even field kicking, just Buddy elite. You go through the list, but he's...
Jeremy Cameron, a left footer or a right footer?
Lefty.
He's a lefty. Yeah. So Jeremy Cameron.
Yeah, there's you go through a heap of them. What he has done is he's played, 270 odd games. Might miss out on playing in a premiership this year, or grand final day. But he's been outstanding, and even Lachie Neale spoke about what he's brought to the club, top 10 draft pick, and there's a great pic of him and his speaker Nick Nat when they drafted, and
that's got Jack Watts in a headlock,
which obviously Collingwood copied a few years later in the Queen's birthday match at the MCG. They roughed him up big time. Anyway, Richie, well played, outstanding, a product of Subiaco, and you can tell he's been a real stalwart of that footy club, and let's hope he gets a match to farewell him at some stage.
Probably need a couple of injuries to go his way at this stage, because he was, of course, a part of the Gunston-Rich self-dropping, which I found outrageous, and he's still dropped. He hasn't been back in the team since he dropped himself, so it'll teach you a lesson or two, Daniel. You just made me think, before games, do you know left footers when you're calling games? Like, would you know if I just threw a name at you, right or left foot, or you just know by my mind?
No, I'm just lucky to actually identify a player, let alone which leg they're kicking on the scale, let's be honest.
So Bunga, I don't know why he used to do this, but before every game, and it was honestly within 10 minutes of us about to run out, he'd come up to me and be like, Toby Green, is he left or right footer? Or
really?
he'd throw one person at me, and I'd either know... and it was just from watching footy.
Did you have a chuckle, or was it all serious?
It was a bit of both. Like, he wanted to know the answer, but it used to be funny because it'd be like, we'd be standing in the race and you go, Toby Bedford, left or right footer? Oh, fuck me. So I'd run off to the backline coach, and sometime during the warm up, it'd fuck with my head if I didn't.
So he. Bunga.
He didn't know.
No, but I know he didn't know. But could he not have gone on as the backline coach or
something?
Yeah,
correct. But it became a thing. So every week he'd pick some random guy. And so it was good for my preparation.
Oh, good.
Toby Bedford's suspension. So he got done a week. That was upheld. I think that's stiff.
I think it's stiff.
I actually hadn't seen...
have you seen it now?
I hadn't seen the full footage. I'd seen the incident, but I hadn't seen what led up to it. He gave a handball to a teammate. And then
Zach Fisher.
Zach Fisher was chasing. Toby Bedford, in his eye line, stood in front, a perfectly executed shepherd, put his back to him, and old mate ran into the back of him. What are you looking at if you're Zach Fisher? That's a disgrace that Toby Bedford gets rubbed out for that. He goes
and the final.
So he gets rubbed out first of all. He challenges it, gets rubbed out again. GWS are challenging it. It's Thursday, the 7th of September. This happened 13 days ago.
Wow.
We had the bye. Why don't we do this last week?
Can I? Have we got a clanger of the week? No, it's
we can roll one out.
That's a definite.
Thirsty Camel
clanger of the fortnight.
By who? AFL?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And why this can't be resolved, I remember going back, there was a bye when Sicily was reported and they waited for a week. But this is finals.
They'll be travelling today.
Yeah, they're training. They're training today.
They'll probably be travelling today or maybe tomorrow morning.
What's today? They're playing Saturday, so Friday, probably go Friday. But bottom line is, you're right, how this could go for so long is beyond me, and doesn't help the Giants, doesn't help Toby Bedford, and I agree. I think, gee whiz to miss, and Zach Fisher don't think helped him a lot either with his...
oh, really?
I think there's a quote saying it stunned me for a bit.
Yeah, maybe just get on with it, Zach.
Just say, Zach, hey...
No idea. I should have had my eyes up and run to the back.
Exactly. I mean, yeah.
It's not hard. Maybe a little of a roll of the dice by GWS down at the Tribunal tonight. Make sure you get your tickets, September 22. There, you like that, Skate? Thought you might.
Good pun, Scully. Very nice.
You don't sound very impressed. Will Schofield, Mark Redding, Shelter FootyCast. All right, let's get into the game, Skeeter. Collingwood, Melbourne, Thursday, 5:20 p.m.
That's tonight.
You'll be calling. Yeah, that's right. Thank you very much, Skeeter. You'll be calling this one.
Yes.
You might be calling all the finals.
No, not all of them. I'm doing a couple this weekend, but I'm looking forward to this one. This is the
Best game of the weekend?
the marquee match, isn't it, really?
I think so.
And you weigh them up, and the selection has been sort of laid bare by both clubs. Tom McDonald returns for the Demons, which is, I guess, in part, Jake Melsham's injury over the way for Tommy, who's been in really good form at the VFL. The big story, though, apart from the fact that Collingwood, that Mason Cox and Darcy Cameron will both play, maybe Ginnivan the sub potentially, is that John Noble, despite playing in excess of 80 consecutive games, not missing one match this year, has been overlooked. There was some vision yesterday I did see on 9 of him
with the backs.
With the backs, getting a cuddle, a hug. I say this with all due respect. For a player that has played every game of the year and to miss out on a qualifying final, what would that do? What does that do to? I mean, how demoralising is it? Albeit your season's not over.
Well, so look, I hadn't played. So we played 83 consecutive games, and I hadn't played that many in a row. In fact, most drop player.
But as I was just saying, as a rule, wasn't it?
But I was dropped. Exactly the same thing happened to me, and I don't know why I didn't in the end, but I almost messaged him. And I don't know him. I don't know him at all. I just felt awful. That was in my footy career. That was the worst moment of my whole footy career by a long, long, long way.
Can I say this? What stopped you messaging John Noble? Because you didn't know him.
Honestly, kids running a mark. I just ran out of time. But
you know what?
I might actually shoot him a message.
Sometimes those things. I'm not. Sometimes those from someone around say, mate, you don't know. I haven't met you, but I've been where you're at, and maybe just 2 lines of advice. I don't think goes astray.
All right, Skeeter, I'm going to do it just for you. I think he'll be in a horrible headspace right now, but the key to I was in a shocking headspace. Like, I didn't want to get out of bed, didn't want to go to training.
So what year was this?
This is 2018.
So 2018, qualifying final against Collingwood at Optus Stadium.
We had a great year. It was my belief we were going to win the flag that year. And so getting dropped for the qualifying final, you think, well, there goes my chances. And when you're immediately dropped, and someone who doesn't get dropped much, it's a shock to the system. And you just want to be out there with your mates. So for him, he'll be in a shocking headspace. But the quicker that he can get himself into supporting his teammates, get himself out of the selfish mindset, which I think is only natural to think about yourself, soon he can get back on the horse and support your teammates. That positive mindset for me, if I hadn't been able to turn that around by game day, and an injury happens and you're sulking around and you're carrying on and it's all about me still, you don't put yourself in the opportunity to take one if it comes about.
So can I ask you an honest question and what you think will go through the head of John Noble tonight? If he sees a Collingwood injury on the ground, what is your initial reaction, in all honesty?
So my initial reaction when Shep did his hammy was, Shep, I didn't actually, it didn't initially click, oh, well, I'm going to be playing. I just went straight down to the rooms because I was like, well, I'm first emergency. I'll go down and see him. So when Shep did his hammy, I was the only bloke. It was me, Shep, and the doctor, and he was doing tests on his hammy. And I've done quite a few hammies, and he'd never done a hammy before. And he had quite a bit of strength in it, and he was sort of holding himself up.
So it's a bit of hope, bit of
positivity. Mate, I told him first up, I said, mate, I reckon you're gonna be all good here. I've done a few hammies before. I reckon, don't stress out. He was pretty upset, so I was sort of trying to calm him down. I wasn't doing it for my own benefit. It was probably after the fact. Well, even then, mate, I honestly thought, I don't think he's done it that badly. He's probably going to be, a
couple of weeks.
Yeah,
but ready for grand final if he get there.
He'd come back. And so, but then when I went back upstairs, I remember going back up, and a fair bit of time had passed. It was after half time by the time I got back upstairs. And then it got towards the last quarter, and it was such a tight game, that qualifying final. And I remember thinking, right, I'm definitely playing the next game here. And I was sort of thinking, oh, do I want him to lose? Do I want him to win? And then, I remember thinking, of course you want him to fucking win. You'll be playing in a prelim final. And then you play well in a prelim, you're playing in the grand final. So I very quickly was to that moment where Lewis Jetta does, kicks that goal and West Coast win. I remember sort of everyone was carrying on a bit pork choppy, but I was very subdued and right, got to get myself ready for a prelim here. And it was only because I'd sort of rocked up finally to that game in a good headspace. I'd got it all out of my system 48 hours before. So, yeah, to come back on the current moment, like John Noble will be in a shocking space and hopefully he can get himself up and about because stuff does happen. Like injuries happen. He's clearly been an important member of the team for a long time. And if someone does come out of that back line or even through the midfield, he's going to be the first back in.
Yeah, and you know what? I imagine the most immediate thought would be, well, if that doesn't happen, I'm out of the boat and not getting back in.
Yeah.
It can be the negative, which is totally possible, but
that's happening anyway, you know? Like, he's already out now. So you either get back on it or, you're done anyway.
Look,
so
I'd imagine, and I'm sure every coach is like this, Craig McRae would, and those coaches and players.
Jeez, that would have been a hard conversation.
I know, but you know what? There's been a lot of hard conversations at this time of the year, of which I'm sure you've heard or it's happened to you.
Yeah,
absolutely. But Craig McRae, I would have thought, given the way he operates, he would have shown absolute due care.
Daniel Pratt, who stepped down from West Coast, said that moment dropping me was the hardest of his coaching career in 2018. I spoke to him having a few beers on the Sunday after the game. We had a bit of a laugh about it in the end. But it didn't go down very well. He was driving with his wife in the car. And
did you drop a couple?
Oh, yeah, I gave him some pretty stern feedback about the situation. Well, mate, my whole thing was sort of, a bit of fight or flight. You can hang up the phone and go and cry in your bed, or you can just come out swinging. So I came out swinging to him, not so much Simo, but he was my backs coach.
Yeah.
So it was,
you don't reckon he went into bat for you enough?
Well, it was either me or someone else, and so it wasn't me. So it was like we obviously fucking didn't. So, and yeah, well, I think that's okay though. Like, we're still great mates.
Yeah, exactly. You can vent.
Yeah.
Without,
and he knew that.
Yeah.
I wasn't. It wasn't personal, but I certainly gave him a bit of feedback. A couple of other ones in that you mentioned Tom McDonald for Melbourne.
Yes.
Michael Hibbard comes back into the side. He hasn't been back for a little while.
Yeah, but he's a defender that, you wonder whether he gets a job on.
I remember he played in that grand final here, and he was outstanding.
Terrific.
Had a couple of one-on-one battles deep in the forward line.
He might get Jamie Elliott tonight. Elliott's a guy that's got off the chain. And interesting, Jack Ginnivan, who was really good against Essendon. Bear in mind they were terrible, but Ginnivan looks like I like the fact he's in that side because I just think he gives them, even as a sub.
He'd be a great sub.
I reckon he's a ripping
Difference
sub
maker.
to have there, come in whether through injury or just to change the dynamics of the game. So, by the way, the last, I think, 2 or 3 games these sides have played, 10 points or less, one team's won either game. There's not much between. It's a really hard game to call.
Yeah, last 2 games it's been one apiece, less than 10 points. Have been great to watch. The Demons have conceded a score from 40% of their opponents' inside 50s, ranked number 1 defensively. So the Demons can hold up against the Flood. That's where it's going to be, actually. Collingwood will be taking this game on. Melbourne are going to be trying to hold up behind the footy. And can Melbourne get midfield dominance with Petrarca, Oliver, and Gawn?
Viney.
And
Gawn. So it's going to be... And condition now, I don't know whether it doesn't play a huge factor in... But it's going to be a bit wet, bit windy. I'd suspect that'd play more into Melbourne's hands as opposed to Collingwood would like a fast track, no? With all the, the ability in spring to play that, really exciting footy. It's a contrast, isn't it? And we saw Melbourne against Sydney, the way they were able to grind out that victory, which I thought was that's won me over for what they can do this campaign.
You know who's going to be an important player in this game, which sounds ridiculous? Mason Cox. I think Cameron Cox against Gawn. If it is wet, Gawn's going to have a lot to do with this game because 1, he'll probably go behind the footy, and 2, there'll be a lot of ruck contests, and so if it's just Gawn v Cameron, I think it's Gawn all the way. But if you can sub Cox in and batter his body a little bit, I think he's going to play a big part, Big Mason. So it's going to be an interesting game. Who are we picking, Skeeter?
This is really... I've been big on Collingwood throughout the course. Look, they're the best team of the year. There's no question. But are they going to be the best team in September? I'll go the way I think... I'll go the opposite to you because I think you're going to tip Melbourne. So I'm going to tip the Magpies tonight. I
am going to pick Melbourne. That is correct.
Just had that gut feeling.
I think the John Noble thing... Now... Don't get me wrong, I'm sure they know what they're doing. But if someone plays in the side 83 games in a row, I don't know if dropping someone before qualifying final means that you're overly happy with how things are going. Now, that could spark the reaction you're looking for, but also it could spring signs of they're trying to pull levers because it's not working right now. So I think Melbourne are pretty stable. They don't have a lot of ins and outs. Oliver's been back for the run enough.
Oliver's got legs, miles in his legs. Viney, really good. Petrarca, does he play more mid, more forward? I suppose the question is, and of course you've got Lever and May down back. Yeah, lots in Melbourne's favour. You mentioned Collingwood. I know that they still beat Essendon by almost 80 points in their last match. So, but that's a question of the legitimacy of the opponent. But yeah, I knew you'd tip Melbourne, so I thought I'd tip Collingwood just to.
Why did you know I'd tip Melbourne?
I just had that feeling about you, but no, because in my heart, I think the style of footy that you've talked about with Collingwood not being successful in September, which I still obviously believe, and Melbourne is almost the opposite of that in the way they will play their finals footy, I think.
I think I've come full circle. I think Collingwood can make the grand final after losing this game.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'd like, to be honest with you, I'd like this to be the grand final.
I think it could be. I think we're watching the grand final. That's what I think the grand final will be. Collingwood will have to go the long route. And you think the other way, Collingwood wins and maybe Melbourne goes the long route?
Yeah, I think both of them can easily get there. I don't know if that's being too disrespectful to the other qualifying finals.
Pretty much even money as well, Skate. Will they get 100,000 there or not?
I don't think 100 Thursday night. But I think if you're not tipping 85, 80, you'd be disappointed. If this was Friday night, then game on, because obviously people don't have the work commitments the next day.
Carlton, Sydney. I saw the membership tables come out. Carlton's got a big membership behind them this year, and they always do. Huge Melbourne club. Big game Friday, 5:50 Friday. So what is it, 5:20 Thursday?
Because I think they play that earlier on a Thursday. They always have Thursday games earlier. And
People
Friday...
People don't even finish work.
7:20, you're saying it's too early.
Sorry, that's right, Skeeter. I thought we were in Melbourne.
Mate, they start Thursday and Friday night's game here at 6 o'clock. And they said, there's no other ground.
Yeah,
because they're trying to get to the ground, you numpties. Because they can sit back at 8 o'clock after Better Homes and Gardens and watch footy, sitting back thinking, oh, gee, the West Aussies are a bit slow to get to the ground.
Better Homes and Gardens. Carlton, Sydney, 5:50, which will be 7:50 local time. I've just done the calculation.
It's 5:50 our time. Yeah, that's still too late, by the way.
Yeah, local MCG time.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's still quite late. I mean, it's
8 o'clock starts late.
For a match which goes 2 3/4 hours, I mean, we should be starting at 7:20 for Friday night for a range of reasons. But you know what? It sort of helps us tomorrow night because might have a couple of shelters and just ease my way towards
dark liquor.
Absolutely, and might just ease my way towards an establishment and watch the footy.
Is that right?
So 5:50.
The wife and kids are away tomorrow, though.
Wife's working. I haven't told her this, by the way. So just putting it out there that might just ease my way towards a venue to watch a bit of AFL. And
we'll see Skeeter at the shoe after midnight tomorrow night.
Yeah, and you'll be at the Hippie Club. Thank you very much.
No, I will not. I'll be in Sydney. I'm going off to Sydney.
Of course, it's Star, yeah.
Carlton, Star, please. Carlton v Sydney, Friday night. Big game. Carlton, where are they at? I'm going to start with this one, Skater. I've seen a bit of Carlton. I've seen some interviews. Hopefully they've got it out of their system because the early stuff this week, very happy to be in finals, as they should be. They haven't. Patrick Cripps, one of the great players of our game, Brownlow medalist, captain of the side, hasn't played in final. So this is new territory, and he's extremely happy to be there, and I love that. But I liken it to the grand final stuff. I think you can often tell the side that's going to at least start well by looking at how they're carrying themselves. And I do think Carlton look happy to be there. Sydney, they know what it takes. Their leadership group, their three leaders, Rampy, Parker and Heaney, have played in more finals than the entire Carlton side.
Yeah, that's a really interesting stat, isn't it? Just to counter that, Sydney has the worst record of any finalist against top 8 sides this year, just 2 wins from 9. But I do like your theory, and that's why my bottle mark is heading down this direction, because I think if there's an upset, and I think the Carlton factor you mentioned is quite true. They've made the finals. They've achieved already what they set out to do this season, and that's to play finals.
Yes.
Sydney, I think if you ask them at the start of the year to make an elimination final, geez, that's underachieving on their eyes after making a grand final last year.
And they will have, there are a lot of players in this side, in this Sydney side, that will have a burning desire to play well in finals, because a lot of them didn't rock up grand final day, and I know what that feels like. Not necessarily that I didn't rock up, but we didn't rock up as a team.
Didn't play well.
2015, and the next final you play, you want to have a good game. So I think Sydney are primed to beat the Blues. But in saying all of that, I think Carlton are the best side here. I think their momentum, their way they've been playing. They're playing a finals brand of footy, perhaps the most finals branded footy of any of the top 8 sides. They are getting it done in the midfield. They've got a great contested brand. They defend well, and they have the attack to kick goals as well. Charlie Curnow, we know what he can do. Big game for Harry Mackay coming up. I think he's really got a... And to be honest, I think he's going to have a big game. He's had a bit of criticism. Carlton don't look as good with him in the side. He's a very good player. Can tell you that firsthand. He's a very good player. So you want him in your side. You just want him playing well. If he plays well, Charlie Curnow plays well. What would you rather? Those two playing well or just one of them playing well? I think you want the mixed bag.
Yep. And the Blues, Michael Voss has spoken this morning, and he's going to go in with the 2 rucks, Pitnet and Tom De Koning.
Is that
that's
right?
Been declared. And also Blake Acres has been given the tick
fitness test,
and he'll play the former Docker. And his importance to Carlton should not be underestimated.
Mate,
so
you saw what he did with Freo. It's the same role he's playing, the defensive wing role. It's important, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. No, and you probably made as much of it as anyone about him leaving Fremantle to go to Carlton and what it would do in a detrimental sense to the Dockers. So, yeah, interesting to see Carlton supporters. I'd love to be at the G tomorrow night because they'll be up and about and but I think you're right. I think Sydney might give them a real fright here, particularly early.
Yes.
I think they are, their record, as I said, against top 8 sides, not great this year. They'd be still, it'll be a memory about playing that poor grand final against Geelong. I still, having watched them against Melbourne, I am concerned about where they're going to kick their goals from.
Sydney,
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
Marty will have to.
Papley's obviously coming
back in. He'll have to have a big game.
And McDonald he's still a baby in many senses.
Absolutely, yeah.
In the craft. So, yeah, that's where my concern lies. But I think their hardness is one thing. I think they've, Errol Goulden, and I think he'll shine. He'll shine tomorrow night. But yeah, really good Friday night game.
Patrick Cripps, Sam Doherty, and Jesse Motlop are the players in for Carlton. So some decent ins there. Jack Silvani is out with a knee, so that's changed the way they're going about it. Like you said, Pitno and Tom De Koning going to go head-to-head in the ruck against Tom Hickey? No, he's not playing.
Well, Hickey's announced his retirement.
Yeah, but not effective immediately.
No, it wouldn't be effective immediately. Well, who have they used in the last couple of weeks? I mean, it's been McLean. McLean rings a bell, yep. So he's done some ruck work. Whether Hickey plays or not...
I don't think so.
Did he not play against Melbourne a couple of weeks ago? I stand corrected.
I don't know. Scott.
Jane will sort that out for us. No, well, it's just trying to ask us a question on the run about... I know he's announced his retirement. Did he play against Melbourne? I thought he did, but I stand corrected.
He did.
Thank you.
I think he'll be playing.
I caught the game, so I should know. It all blends.
I think he'll be playing then. No, he's not going to get dropped.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. So he and
That's
McLean...
not what you were saying.
No, well, I thought he'd played against Melbourne, so why
I threw
would
you under the bus, I'm sorry.
You did.
How dare I ask details about one of these 4 finals we're previewing?
He didn't know who's rucking for Sydney at the moment.
So
You're tipping Sydney.
Yeah.
No,
Sydney. I was going to say, how do you stop Charlie Curnow? I mean, they're gonna have to get that job done behind the footy, because this is why I think Harry Mackay's going to have a big game. There's going to be a lot of focus that goes into Charlie Curnow, because if you can't stop him, you can't beat Carlton.
No.
So I think they're going to be dropping an extra behind the ball, not potentially a +1, but at times they'll be looking to get in front of Charlie Curnow, which means Harry Mackay is going to have a big role to play. And if he can play well, Carlton win this game.
Completely dismiss what happened against the Giants. I mean, Buckley did a really good job on Curnow. Kicked 3 goals, which meant he wasn't a factor. They lost the game. But am I being... finals footy is different. I know what you've seen in the last 2 months of the home and away season. Forget the Giants game, because it was a bit of a dead rubber for Carlton.
Yes.
But do you not... A bit like you're talking about Collingwood with regards to that the Carlton factor, having already achieved your season goal, is that still doesn't weigh on you enough to have major doubts about them tomorrow night?
I wanted to pick him as my bottom art roughie of the week, but it sounds like that's where you're going, so I'm going to pick Sydney.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, no, I'm going to pick Carlton. I'll pick Carlton.
Okay.
So you're going to have Sydney as your bottom art roughie of the week. Start your footy weekend at bottom art. Grab your shelters where bottom art has you covered. You're picking Sydney to beat Carlton.
Yep. And I know where you're heading for your bottom up. That's okay.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, probably.
Do you?
I think the next day you'll be just...
Is that right?
Yeah, I think you'll go outside the square.
Okay. St Kilda v GWS Giants, Saturday, 1:20 p.m. Mind you, I can pick either of the underdogs in either of these games.
You're probably right, yeah.
So I don't know if you do know who I'm going to go. St Kilda GWS. This is a bit of a rogue one because whoever wins this, you wouldn't have either of these two. So, I would have GWS above St Kilda here. They do go in as favourites into this game. MCG suits them. Telstra Dome or Marvel, whatever it's called, that would have suited St Kilda because of the way they play. Toby Bedford will be a big out if he can't get up in this appeal, and they'll be waiting with bated breath because he's been able to do some things for them defensively. And from the attacking side, that's been big. Max King is in. Dougal Howard is in. Seb Ross is in. Did Max King not play last round?
Against the Saints. Well,
they are the Saints.
No, I'm just going to get the Saints. Who do they play in the last round? That stretches our memory back. Well, while you're talking about that, there's a fitness test pending today for Sam Taylor. And we know his importance. He just missed out on All-Australian selection.
King didn't play against Brisbane.
Probably by virtue of the fact he'd played 15, not 16 games. Sam Taylor, even last night on Footy, classified on 9. Adam Kingsley declaring him the best defender in the competition, which fair enough. He said I'm a bit biased, but you know what? Don't think he's far from the mark. And the best defender he's coached, and he's
Sam Taylor.
Yeah, and he's coached at Richmond.
That's saying something because Jack Buckley won the Defender of the Year over at BackChat, and he's playing in the same team as him.
Well, Sam Taylor, I don't think you could knock him. He's had a really good season.
He's outstanding, but he can do what he does because of Jack Buckley.
Yeah, okay.
Don't you knock the Dow defenders like Jackie Buckley.
I didn't bring Jack Buckley into the discussion. I'm saying this is from Adam Kingsley, his coach, saying that he's the best defender in the competition. So there's that at play. And
I think Buckley gets King. I think they'll play Buckley on King.
And what if Taylor plays?
What do you mean?
Well, where does Taylor play?
I said a hammy test. Yeah, right.
I'm just talking about it for the last 45 seconds.
You know I don't listen to you.
I just said he's got a fitness test. He missed the game against Carlton, which really pissed you off because it meant that Charlie Curnow kicked 3 instead of maybe just.
Well, no, I think Jack Buckley did a very, very good job.
He did a great job, absolutely.
So that's why I think they play him on King. If Sam Taylor plays, he can roll off and intercept.
Okay, he doesn't go to Mackay, for instance.
Well, yeah, he's going to have to.
Yeah. So either or.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Either Buckley goes to Curnow or Taylor. So either or. So Buckley or Taylor. I asked you where Taylor's playing.
So who do you think they'll get on? Curnow and Mackay? Is that right? Is that who you think Sam Taylor and Jack Buckley are playing on?
Well, yeah, that's
is that right?
If Taylor's. So where's Taylor playing?
Do you think he'll maybe play on a St Kilda player, or do you think he'll play on a Carlton player?
Who did I say? I say Mackay.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
Have I mentioned Carlton? It shows you how I'm going.
Yes! Yes! Whoa! Skeeter's lost the fucking plot. Yes!
Who did I tell you? Mate, Sam Taylor to play on
Max King
for
St Kilda, because that's who they are playing.
Yeah. So you're saying, sorry, I was going back to the Carlton game.
My life's made. I don't think you've stuffed something like that up all year because you're a very knowledgeable man.
No, well, so if you're saying Buckley's playing on King, then who does Taylor play on?
I don't know, mate. I don't know. You've absolutely rattled me. I think he does what I said. I think he'll play on anyone and roll off and get in front of Max King. I don't think they have another player to play on.
So the best defender in their side doesn't go to their best forward.
Well, he's certainly not going to play on Curnow and Mackay.
No, that's a fair call.
I think, yes. As I've been saying.
You threw me because I was talking about Sam Taylor for 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, and I wasn't listening.
Exactly.
Right. And then I started talking. I don't think you were listening because
I was really thinking about tomorrow night.
Jack Buckley goes to their best player because of the job he did on Charlie Curnow last week.
Yeah, but irrespective of that, you're going on one performance, and Buckley's no deal. Yeah. But Sam Taylor is their best defender according to their coach.
That's fine. I just question.
Well, let's see who rolls onto who.
I reckon a little bit of a.
If he plays, of course.
A little bit of a. What's the bull running with the red rag to the bull?
Yeah.
A little bit of a have a look over here. Have a look over here.
Yeah.
Actually, Jack Buckley's playing on you. I think he's trying to lure Max King into thinking Sam Taylor's playing on him. I think Jack Buckley goes to Max King.
Yeah, well,
I don't think it's that outrageous. It's certainly not as outrageous as saying they get to play on Curnow.
No. Well, Ross Lyon, I'm sure he hasn't thought of that either. Anyway.
Giants mantra anytime, anywhere. They've won at 10 venues this year.
I saw that. And obviously there was gather round.
Not at the MCG.
No, that's the big one, isn't it? We saw them against Collingwood get absolutely towed up.
Yes.
But their form, I think if you look at the numbers, either winning or even their losses have been really competitive. So
Giants haven't beaten the Saints since 2019.
No, average, I think, winning margin for the Saints of about 22 points.
Wow.
So, which seems, maybe have they played them twice a year since then? I don't know. But I tell you now, I think the Giants would rather play at Marvel But so too would the Saints, wouldn't they?
No, the Giants would rather play at the MCG.
Well, against St Kilda, yes.
So the other really big one that I think, and he's been probably my favourite player this year alongside Tom Liberatore, is Toby Green. And it's how do you stop him? Because I'm banging on about it all year. If he kicks 3-4 goals, game over. If Toby Green kicks those goals, they win.
Oh, how many goals do we need? Because St Kilda aren't going to be blowing 15, 16, 17 goals on the scoreboard.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I think if Toby Green kicks 3 or 4 goals, they win. They've got a few options. Wilkie, who's All-Australian fullback, I think he could play on Toby Green. I actually think he's a really good matchup. He's a bit taller, but he's got the mobility, and he's a sort of guy that'll just lock him down. You need someone to sacrifice their entire game and stop Toby Green. Like, here's your role. Stop him. Schofield on to Goey. Don't worry about getting a touch. Don't run to the middle of the MCG. Just get the job done against Toby Green, and they get the job done. I think St Kilda can win this game, but I'm picking the Giants.
Picking the Giants?
I'm picking the Giants, absolutely.
Okay. But on their form leading into this game?
Yeah. Form, where the matchup is, the way the game styles compare. GWS have been playing an attacking brand of footy, and St Kilda do the opposite. So I think on a bigger ground, I think they're gonna get on their bikes and put them to the sword.
Okay, even though their record's not great at the MCG.
Well, how many games do they play at the MCG this year?
Probably may play 1 or 2. I'm inclined to agree with you. I think St Kilda, they've played a good last month, to be fair. They've beaten up at the Gabba, but I tend to agree that the Giants, if you look at their last 2 months, they've been one of the more informed sides of the comp. So I'm prepared to roll the dice a bit again, and go with the Giants at the G.
Okay, well, they're favourites, so it's not rolling the dice. Brisbane v Port Adelaide.
We just said they hadn't won there in Melbourne for 4 years.
They're like $1.70 favourite.
Okay. Oh.
Hey, I don't set the odds.
No, I said
if I did, we'd both actually win.
I was just saying roll the dice. I was rolling the dice to promote September 22.
Sorry. Okay, sorry. Look, you and I, we're not gambling men because we can't win. Brisbane v Port Adelaide, 5:25 Saturday at the Gabatoir. There's a couple of changes here. Charlie Dixon will be out. He's injured at the moment.
Yeah.
Lincoln McCarthy comes in. Todd Marshall, Scott Lycett into the side alongside Trent McKenzie. They're 3 massive ins for Port Adelaide. They straighten them up. That's their spine right there. Full forward, full back, and their ruckman. There's some big ins.
Absolutely. Charlie Cameron, he's on my brain.
200th
AFL match. He's kicked 15-5 in his last 5 finals. So up at the Gabba, we know that Charlie's the man.
Who's going to play on him?
The only issue for me for Brisbane is that their finals record up at the Gabba is, they're pristine this year as in the home and away season in Brisbane, but not so much in finals over the last few years.
They have lost 4 of its 6 finals at the Gabba under Chris Fagan.
Yeah, so this is a perfect match for Port Adelaide's ambush, I would have thought, to go up there and for them to try and do something a little bit out of the square.
Mate, listen to this. Brisbane have won 50 of its last 58 matches at the Gabba, so that would be over 3 years probably.
That's 90%ish, yep.
And they've lost 4 of its last 6 at the Gabba.
Yeah,
so
finals.
Yeah, but at the Gabba. So I would say 4 of those 8 losses have been in finals. That's a poor record, Skeeter.
Yeah, and bear in mind, you say 50 or 58, so you arguably playing, 25, 30 of those matches against teams that are, down in the bottom half of the table. So it's a concern. I mean, look, they're still playing. I think they're more mature than they have been previously. They look a more settled side. I think their defence, they've had a bit of stability about it. Harris Andrews is the linchpin there. But
very unlucky not to be All-Australian, Harris Andrews.
You think ahead of Wilkie?
Tom Stewart.
Yeah, Tom Stewart's an interesting one. He was one that's copped a bit of criticism.
Well, his reputation precedes him a little bit. Like, he's been an outstanding player and has been multiple-time All-Australian. I just don't think he was All-Australian this year.
Yeah, no, that's fair shout. Defence, we know, look, if their forward line clicks, they're going to be very tough to beat on the weekend. So that remains to be seen. Cam Rayner's had a really good season, 19 score assists at the Gabba this year. And Josh Dunkley has been added to the midfield. We know that he's averaged around 20 touches a game. So they've got the depth. They're missing Ashcroft, of course, who did his knee. Look, you take a brave person to pick against the Lions up at the Gabba, I would suggest. The
Bottom Art Roughie of the Week. Start your footy weekend at Bottom Art. Grab your shelters where Bottom Art has you covered. I'm picking Port Adelaide for a few reasons. Can I let you know what they are?
Yeah, of course.
I don't like Brisbane. Number 2. I don't. I've been off them all year.
What's the reason?
Finals record at their home ground where they never lose is shithouse. That's why. That's one reason. Number 2. Willem Drew will tag Lockie Neal. Make no mistake about it. 32 disposals in his last 5 finals. Lockie Neal dominates Port Adelaide. They need to stop him. Josh Dunkley, on the other hand, will have a big game on the back of that. And then I just think Port Adelaide have been starved of final success whilst being a successful side. Both of these teams have the same story.
Well, that's your same.
But Port Adelaide are thirstier, Skeeter. They are thirstier. They want it more.
You haven't mentioned the two blokes that are absolutely the guys that will get this team across the line for your Port Adelaide selection. Rosie and Butters are just there. Now, you talk about shutting down Lockie Neal with Willem Drew.
Yes.
Is there...
I don't think Brisbane have that.
No.
I don't think they have that in their repertoire.
Is it their style of play to try and do that?
No, it's not. They want to take you on head-to-head. So I think Rosie, Butters go to town. If they're over their jet lag from going over and seeing Brody Grundy on the weekend before... I think Port Adelaide are a better side. That is my final summary. I think Port Adelaide are better than Brisbane, and they get it done, even though the Power have lost 4 of their last 5 games against the Lions.
Have they really?
Yep.
Yeah. No, but I think the real fact there to at least consider is the Brisbane's record at the Gabba in September, not great as opposed to their home and away form. But I just feel they're a better side now than 12 months ago.
Reason number 6 is I wanted to pick Sydney to beat Carlton, but you took that side.
Yeah, that was my little cheeky. I thought I'd get in early with that one, but
yeah,
no.
Well
Put out a few. I think they're $1.45 Brisbane, which is that's short enough if you're looking at a bet in that game because Port Adelaide good value.
I think overall those 4 finals are great. They've got great storylines. Brisbane and Port, they've both been underachieving in finals
and under the radar a bit. When you think of if you were to name your 2 grand finalists now, I mean Brisbane's obviously at home. They get 2 finals, the most of. No one's really. I mean, it's
what year was Brisbane Port?
2004. Yeah. 2004. And in fact, recently they had their reunion, the Brisbane Lions reunion. I'll tell you a quick story here. I'm told this reliably. I think 20 years ago, of course, they beat Collingwood in a couple of grand finals, 202, 203. And of course, Essendon the year before that. Up in Brisbane they had it. And most of the players were there, including Craig McRae.
Yes.
It was just in the bio round, by the way. No Michael Voss, the captain. But apparently he's so zoned in to getting success at Carlton that he stayed back.
Wow.
Big night, I'm told, by reliably. Of course, guys like Bo McDonald, who West Australian, involved in one of those grand finals, was part of it. It's a hard question to answer. Who do you think was best on ground when it comes to the Brisbane Lions reunion celebrations? And he has won a lot of flags, not just at one club, and was renowned as a very good night owl specialist. His initials... MP.
Martin Pike?
Bingo.
Is that right?
Yeah, apparently he's just...
sizzling.
Just sizzling. Got the microphone of Anthony Hudson at the end of the night. And
where were they? Anthony Hudson was there.
Well, he was hosting a function for them, but obviously, yeah. And he just told Hutto to just quietly F off and in a lighthearted way. But Martin Pike, best on ground again, the champ.
Yeah, good. That's very good, Skater. That's good gear from you.
Well, just try and come up with something outside the square, given that I've absolutely butchered Carlton and St Kilda playing this weekend.
I couldn't be happier. I hope you enjoyed that, everybody. Will Schofield, Mark Redding, Shuttle FootyCast. Long year. It's a long year, and it's taking you this long to trip right the fuck up and absolutely butchered it. I should have kept you going, actually, but I'm a good.
I was lost in space.
I looked after you a little bit, but I could have taken you all the way. Rowan Butler writes in. This is our list of the questions.
I was going to say Rowan Butler. Who's he play for? I wasn't sure.
Tell us about Rowan Butler, Skeeter. FootyCast@shelterbrewing.com.au is our email. You want to send us an email, get yourself on the show, do that, or you can put comments on Instagram or YouTube, and Jaden will do his best to find him there. Rowan Butler writes in, if both Devon Robinson and Tyler Brockman are coming to West Coast, what sort of pick needs to go the other way to get the deals done? That's question 1. I don't know if... I think Devon Robinson will be held tighter than a Tyler Brockman, perhaps, but both decent players without having reached their true potential, so you'd think you'd get them at a little bit of a bargain basement, potentially.
Yeah.
Round 3?
Yeah.
Round 4?
Can I be
round
honest
3?
with you? I have no idea.
Do clubs ever...
No, but...
let's leave it at that.
Okay, but Robertson, hearing a 4-year deal, in all honesty, is he either underutilised at Brisbane, hasn't been able to break into a very good side, obviously. Is there an element of that? Do you think that he could make a difference at West Coast?
Yeah, I think he could. And I've heard from a personal point of view,
good leadership.
He's got great leadership qualities, which the whole leadership qualities thing is an interesting one, and it doesn't get rolled out very often. But guys that spring to mind that when they got to the club had good leadership capabilities, and I inverted commas those, were Oscar Allen.
Yep.
I remember him coming there, and the first thing I heard about him, great leadership.
Is that because he's clean cut and a nice guy and all that sort of stuff?
I think it's just the way he holds himself, hold conversation with people. Tom Barras was another one.
Very articulate.
Liam Duggan was another one.
Very articulate.
They're all vice captain, potential captains of the football club. So it's interesting how these things go, and it's certainly a reputation that he has from afar. I don't know him from a bar of soap, but I've heard that about him before, so who knows. Do clubs ever really walk players to the pre-season draft?
Very rarely.
No.
I can't. It's highly unusual.
If they want to leave, or it's sort of, is that what the case? They want to leave and they say, oh no, you can go there if you like.
Yeah.
Very rare.
I think
there was one case and someone had a pick and I don't know.
No. So to answer the question, it's highly irregular that the negotiations stall or fall over to that degree.
I'm going to be honest with you, Skater. I have no idea. Is Brockman plus Granger Barras plus Hawks first rounder worth pick 1? Brockman, Granger Barras,
and what else?
And Hawks first rounder, which would be pick 4.
I'm saying no.
Pick 4 plus 2 players. I think you'd need to get another pick in there, and it'd have to be quite high up.
Yeah, Tyler Brockman.
Granger Barras is a top 10 pick.
Yeah, he was, and actually, just a very brief story. When I was growing up in the house that he also lived in the hills. So, and a nice guy. He's I don't know if you've met him.
I've met his old man.
Yeah, so he's a ripping young bloke.
Ian?
I just a touch disappointed either for him or that he hasn't been able to further his or accelerate his career at Hawthorn to the degree I thought he might.
I don't think they're going to get rid of him. To be frank,
no,
why would Hawthorn get rid of him? They're a building side. He's a young key backman who was top 10 potential. You don't just flick them off.
No. I mean, I don't know how much footy he's played in the last year.
Hawthorn aren't doing that deal. I'm sorry.
No,
I don't think Hawthorn are hunting that number 1 pick like that. People think they are.
And I don't think West Coast... Yeah, for me, it's not a win for West Coast either, to be honest.
Are the Eagles better off letting these guys pass and just using the picks they have? That's an interesting conversation. So Robertson, Brockman, anyone else that's been muted, are they better off just going, no, we're going to the draft and we're taking draft picks and just we're taking Harley Reid at 1 and we're taking someone else at 20 and we've got another top draft. Do we have it? No, I don't know.
They've put it this way. They've got the option of going a raft of very solid draft picks, including number 1, or you're right, in bringing in a couple of players. I mean, Trey Rusco from Collingwood also wants to come home to WA. Now, whether he has any value for either club here, I'm not sure. It's a good question, though, isn't it, with regards to having a look at a Brockman, a Robertson, or thinking, no, we're going to be genuine about this rebuild.
We're taking Reid.
And we're going to build from the bottom up as opposed to chipping away. And a bit of character comes into it, but you also want to find talent. And if you've seen someone do something for another club, then sometimes that's more attractive than finding a player in the draft that you still got the question mark against.
I think I sway on this weekly. I was take Reid, and then I was like split the picks, and then I was back on Reid. I think I'm coming back around to the current position the list's in. They need to add more players, not just one high quality
That's
player.
why I say split the picks.
I think they're going to have to get some high quality
group
of players.
And if they get a player, or if they overlook a player like Harley, who, for instance, is a Chris Judd, then you got to wear that.
Yep.
But by the same token, where they're at, I think if they'd played finals this year and finished in a decent position, and I think Harley Reid, you go, we're taking it in that sense.
The Chris Judd example is an interesting one because Luke Hodge was taken number 1 in that draft.
Yeah.
Luke Ball was number 2.
He was number 3.
And Chris Judd was number 3.
Yeah.
So you may not, in fact, overlook a Chris Judd. You may get a Chris Judd.
No, totally. Yeah, so exactly. I think you're right, though. Where the club is at, they need young talent, multiple, as opposed to one complete gun.
Ben writes in, love the pod. Thank you, Ben. It was gutted you guys were a no-show at Frothtown, especially Skeeter. He's all talk, no drink.
No. I said I wasn't there. I had to host the East Fremantle Football Club auction night.
Ben
and I got paid correctly, by the way. There's no issues there.
Ben, you didn't get super top up. Ben didn't say that about you. I just said you're all talk. I was keen to have a few shelters and have a yarn together. What's the penalty shot for that? You doing any penalty shots?
No, well,
dark liquor on the weekend.
Come and join.
While Skeeter's cheering on Charlie Curnow and Harry Mackay and GWS and Kilda go.
Oh yeah,
that will actually summarise how many drinks you've had when you tell him, "Someone man up, Charlie Curnow." G. Jordan 5844. Hey Reddings. Hey Reddings.
Sounds like I'm back at school. Yeah.
Hey Reddings.
Yeah.
I hear your comments on Collingwood, but they also got gifted some amazing talent.
On who? Sorry. Who's Hollywood?
Collingwood.
Oh, Collingwood.
I hear your comments on Collingwood, but they also got
Father,
gifted some amazing talent through father son, right?
Right. Yep. That's true. So yeah. So how do you change it?
What did you say about Collingwood? I can't remember. What did you say?
I think I just wrapped them up. I said they've been the best team during the home and away. I'm not sure what I said. I can't remember who's playing this weekend, like you half the time.
Whatever, Reddings. Daniel Jeffrey says, Will Schofield on the board at West Coast?
Hang on, what happened to the Collingwood question? Was there anything apart from about the father-son?
That was it.
Oh, okay. Well, they have been, but so was Geelong.
Yeah. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, correct. Okay. It's a fact.
Hang on, Skater. Daniel Jeffrey wants me on the board of West Coast. So.
Oh, seriously?
What would you do if that happened?
Well, I'd demand you wear shoes for a start.
I'd teach them a thing or two in there, mate. Sort them out. Bit of clarity would be nice. Bit of communication to your fans. I mean, I think they've delisted players and they haven't told anyone about it, so you might want to start with that. Tips. We know what we've done. That's us done and dusted, Skeeter.
Yeah, Thursday night footy, Friday night footy, Saturday double header. Your
big weekend coming up. I'm going to the UFC.
UFC, yeah, so enjoy the footy.
John Worsfold over at BackChat. Good interview.
Yeah, saw the shot of Dan, who's he sort of had that fawning look in his face as he was sitting on the couch. Looked like a good venue, by the way.
Yeah, that's Whippersnapper Distillery down in East Perth. Good friends of Shelter, actually. Get your shelters into you. Have a good weekend.
Go well.
See you next week.